Deus Ex Machina, script immunity, character shielding, there are a few different names for this literary phenomenon of characters just seemingly shrugging off mortal wounds, but the most colloquially accepted is that of the plot armor. And love 'em or hate 'em, the games on this list surely are some of the worst when it comes to making their survivors, well, actually survive. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 7 worst uses of video game plot armor. Number 7. Amanda DeSanta, GTA 5. Now, a cynical or reactionary person might say that GTA is about killing people. Now, while the games, most notably their recent iterations, offer a whole slew of things to do beyond this, we do have to concede that there is a certain amount of validity in that slightly reductive observation. With machine guns, flamethrowers, bazookas, and tanks on offer, it has to be said that murder is a very easy option in GTA, so the developers naturally had to come up with a way to make sure you can't accidentally obliterate key characters and soft-lock yourself out of the game. A most notable example of this would be Michael's wife Amanda in GTA 5. Insulting, gold-digging, drinking, stealing, and a pretty heavy dose of infidelity are just some of the wonderful things that Amanda brings to her marriage with Michael. So when her character model appeared in front of players' cars, it was barely a New York minute before players wanted to test her resilience. Although dialogue makes it clear that Michael is not on board with this, it is completely possible to run down his infuriating wife and begin life as a bachelor. This single life is short-lived, however, as immediately after leaving the area, you'll receive a furious text from your durable wife and a hospital bill for your trouble. Now, whilst it's tempting to say that people survive car crashes all the time, this is a character who will survive car crashes all the time. Like it or not, you're stuck with her, so you better make sure your health insurance is all paid up. Number 6. BALTHIER, Final Fantasy XII. Now, plot armor is nothing new in the world of Final Fantasy. After all, we are talking about a franchise where you frequently pick fights with literal gods and only get knocked out for your troubles. Final Fantasy XII is no exception to this rule, and it's the deliciously suave sky pirate BALTHIER who dons some narrative chainmail for this game's final act. A slight oddity in the Final Fantasy canon, Final Fantasy XII both eschews the turn-based combat system and unfolds the story from the perspective of Vern, a character who has little bearing on the narrative other than being just a member of the party set to save the world. Charismatically professing his role as the leading man throughout, it's BALTHIER who elects to stay behind to save his friend Fran when Sky Fortress Bahamut plummets to its destruction in the finale. Sure enough, a letter from the lovable rogue at the coronation of the new princess during the ending cutscene confirms his daring escape from the jaws of death, and his friends fly through the skies to meet him. Although not the first Final Fantasy character to get away without a phoenix down in sight, more on that later, BALTHIER's own proclamation that the main character can't die seems so on the nose that his fate would surely be sealed. We'll never know how he survived, but it could very well be just out of sheer arrogance. Number 5. Liquid Snake, Metal Gear Solid. Despite the reverence with which it's held by many, the Metal Gear franchise is one that occasionally does fall victim to narrative tropes such as plot armor in amongst Hideo Kojima's trademark barminess. With cyborg ninjas returning from the dead and stealth operatives taking down nuclear mechs, it's a franchise that just has to take realistic odds and just pop them aside for 1 second. And this is first witnessed by many in the seminal Metal Gear Solid. Antagonist Liquid Snake is a tricky foe to take down, flanked by superpowered lieutenants like the iconic Psycho Mantis and Sniper Wolf. Although Liquid himself is not superpowered, his devious trickery ensures that he remains a step ahead of Solid Snake for the game's duration. Throughout the game, Liquid crashes his helicopter, takes multiple rockets to the face whilst piloting Metal Gear Rex, and remains in the cockpit as the giant mech explodes with enough force to launch Solid Snake across the arena. Not willing to go down just yet, Liquid still has enough pep for a fist fight above Rex, and a jeep crash for good measure, before his time is finally cut short by the narratively important Fox Die virus. Now, plot armor is always a useful tool when you're in a pinch, helping you brush off the sort of injuries that just would rip up even your superpowered cronies to pieces. But do be careful though, just because you haven't died now doesn't mean you won't die later, and then come back as somebody's sentient robot arm in the follow-up, because Kojima. Number 4. Wild Dog, Time Crisis. Not exactly known for its rich and deep lore, the Time Crisis light gun games are nevertheless ones with an overarching storyline which pretty much all contain one mad as a sack of frogs mercenary causing all kinds of mischief. I'm speaking, of course, about Wild Dog. Originally seen kidnapping the president's daughter in the original game, Wild Dog has been a consistent antagonist across the whole franchise. Appearing in every game, this sunglass and trenchcoat model is determined to see his plans through despite being shot in the chest and blown up, crashing his helicopter and initially initiating a self-destruct device on 3 separate occasions. Whilst his first apparent death did indeed rob him of his left arm, being replaced with an increasingly souped-up mechanical version, there really does not seem to be anything keeping this dog down. The lore itself has even started to indicate that this formerly straight-laced franchise has taken on a theistic route, and that Wild Dog is actually escaping from the gates of hell itself time and time again. Whichever way you cut it, science has thus far been unable to explain this maniac merc's uncanny ability to cheat death at every turn. Whether it's a deal with the devil or just a running gag, you can be sure that he'll keep coming back as long as the plot demands it. Number 3. Ada Wong, Resident Evil 2. So secret agent slash corporate spy slash love interest slash grapple gun wielding badass Ada Wong has made a name for herself through both her self-serving determination and near omniscient ability to be in the wrong place at the right time. Fans were first introduced to Ada in Resident Evil 2, where she forms a partnership with Leon S. Kennedy by posing as an FBI agent investigating the Umbrella Corporation. As the game progresses, this backstory is proven to be a ruse, and Ada reveals that she's actually working for a rival organization looking to steal Umbrella's G-Virus. Depending on which character the player chooses first, Leon's storyline plays out in 2 different ways, with Ada either getting shot and falling to her air quotes death, or being crushed against a wall by hulking fedora enthusiast Mr. X and bleeding to air quotes death again in Leon's arms. We present both these mortal options with a pinch of salt, however, as later in the game, during Leon's encounter with the aforementioned Mr. X, Ava reappears from the shadows and gifts Leon the rocket launcher that he needs to put down this pale-faced stalker for good. Characters often like to make reappearances across the Resident Evil franchise owing to their virus-imbued regenerative abilities, but this anti-heroine manages to return to the party plenty of times without any such luxury. Maybe it's the plot armor keeping her going, but then again, she is doing everything these other characters are doing whilst wearing high heels, so maybe she is just that damn good. Number 2. BJ Blazkowicz, Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. So cool guys walk away from explosions, that is a given, but how many do you know that can walk away from being beheaded? Set in an alternate timeline which saw the Nazis as the victor of World War II, Wolfenstein and its sequels tell the story of William B.J. Blazkowicz, an American spy waging a one-man war against the totalitarian forces which threaten to rule the world. After the finale of the previous game, where Blazkowicz is caught in an explosion after killing recurring antagonist Death's Head, the new Colossus sees the protagonist wake up from a 5-month coma and begin the task of liberating Nazi-occupied America. Now, normally a task of this magnitude is going to come with a few setbacks, but I don't think anybody was expecting this hard-as-nails man to have his head chopped off halfway through the game. Not wanting their hero to die, Blazkowicz's team of rebels manages to recover his head and surgically attach it to a bioengineered Nazi super soldier body. The phrase bioengineered Nazi super soldier body is mad enough before you even consider the scientific sidestepping that it takes to present this as a viable option. For all of his weapons, skills, and mountains of muscle, Blazkowicz is ultimately human, and decapitation for even the most resilient of specimens usually has a strong ring of finality to it. Now, does this conform to any of the laws of biology in the real world? Absolutely not. Are we inclined to care when the mayhem gets to continue, and is this good? Not even slightly. And number 1, Squall, Final Fantasy VIII. Here it is, the plot armor so thick that it led to an entire section of the gaming community swearing blind that it can't be true. Squall, the protagonist of Final Fantasy VIII, is dead. But let's rewind a little bit. The moody middle child of the PS1's Final Fantasy output, Final Fantasy VIII holds a special place in many fans' hearts for its rich character development and challenging yet rewarding junction system. Following Squall and his fellow CD cadets, members of an elite military force for hire, the game sees the party squaring off against the time-bending sorceress Ultimacia. Following a failed attempt to assassinate their foe, the young protagonist is stabbed with a high-speed shard of ice, the force of which knocks him back to fall to his apparent doom. But then, he's just fine. The cinematic really hammers home that this magical assault on Squall is a big deal, with love interest Renoa looking on tearfully as he plummets, seeing as, the ice shard is still embedded in his chest. Squall's progress from mortal wound to irksome imprisonment is so convenient that fans speculate that he did not actually in fact survive here, and that the fantastical back half of the game, combined with perceived hints in dream sequences, are evidence of a dying fever dream. Alas, Square Enix confirmed that the shard did actually pierce Squall's shoulder and that the rest of the game is in fact real. Whilst it's tempting to believe this hype, we do all have to sigh in bitter disappointment, as it turns out this shoulder was indeed wearing plot armor several inches thick. And there we go, my friends. Those were the 7 worst uses of video game plot armor. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ0, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice, where I do all of my streaming outside of work, and it'd be great to see you over there, my friends. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. I hope you're treating yourself with love and respect, my friend, because you deserve all of the best things in life, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, alright? You are a massive ledge. Now go out there and use the shield of positivity that I'm giving to you today, as well as the helm of self-love, and go out there and absolutely smash it. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.